One. Hello. Hello.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to this interesting topic on incretins. I would like to invite on stage Dr. Kundan Khamkar and Dr. Raghu Satyanarayan and ask them to chair the session, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to invite Dr. Mohan Shenoy, who is a consultant endocrinologist at Trivandrum, Kerala, for his wonderful topic on Twinkle Twinkle Twincretin. Dr. Mohan Shenoy, please.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, chairpersons, and good afternoon, audience. I thank Dr. Unish sir for providing me this opportunity to discuss a new topic which is often relevant in the publications only. And this is based on the twincretin concept. So for this presentation, I have used some data. There is only scientific objective. I have no pharmacological interest or honorarium with any company for this presentations. And I would discuss the headings on introduction, basics, and advances on this double incretin concept, research evidence and clinical importance, as well as future directions which we can include. So let's start with the case. We have a patient came with a history of weight gain progressively. He is 36 years of age with a strong family history of type 2 diabetes and a past history. He was in childhood also, he was obese. He is having a BMI of 35 and weight is 120 kilograms. And basically he is also having acanthosis nigricans, which is a marker of insulin resistance. So new onset of diabetes was detected in him, which is not unusual. We have such patients in us, in our population. Fasting blood glucose was 130, postprandial of 170, HbA1c is 7.3, and he is having reasonable glomerular filtration rate and having a SGPT of 80. So we have a lot of drugs in our mind, but definitely we have to advise lifestyle modifications. We have a lot of other medicines with us. So for this, we have to refer to the position statement by the ADA. We can see here that we have got a lot of things to consider when we have a newly onset diabetes. The first line is metformin and comprehensive lifestyle. Establish CVD, then we have to go for the basic incretin-based therapy, or we have to use SGLT2 inhibitors. But when we don't have anything like that, we can choose any other drugs which are shown here. But the point is that the GLP-1 based therapy and the incretin therapy has been mentioned the maximum times in the guidelines. So this shows that we have to avoid the clinical inertia and modify treatment when we have a situation like this, and consider all the options with us, just not directly go for the established treatments. So this patient is a classic case of a diabesity. So it is diabetes and obesity happening in the same patient in the occurrence. So we know that it is growing with time. The WHO estimates that it is a risk factor for type 2 diabetes besides the physical inactivity and unhealthy lifestyle. The global situation is alarming. We can see the data from India. India is actually the number 3 among the top 10 obese countries in the world, according to the global data on Lancet publication. For the government level, it is difficult to implement the healthy environment, but I am glad that a lot of things like Halo India is happening. So we have a lot of things like better diagnosis treatment also there. The collection of data is very important, because when you know that it is a non-communicable disease, we have to implement it with a lot of effort from both the government, patient, as well as the hospital side. So this patient can be definitely, when not properly managed, go into a higher situation, or even he can become a leaner patient. But we know that bariatric surgery is not the magic therapy for all patients, because bariatric therapy, after that, still the patient can remain in the same situation like that. So GLP-1 analogs have transformed from the inception. Last 30 years since they have been identified as a proper agent, lot of studies are there. It is basically acting on the hypothalamus area on the appetite. We have got the fat cell itself being modified. Insulin secretion has been regulated. We know that when we have a patient with obesity, addressing 5 to 10% weight loss itself can reverse diabetes. And this improves the life expectancy. The studies like DPP, which is the Diabetes Prevention Program, and the Look Ahead study, these are the landmark studies. These have shown that we can decrease the need for drugs for obesity-related conditions just by insisting on a non-pharmacological weight loss or by giving a therapeutic weight loss. The concept of obesity paradox has gone out of the window because previously we had a situation where a patient having obesity was told that you are not in the risk zone, you can be taking time with that. But we know that the concept of metabolically healthy obesity is definitely not a problem because we see that they have got actually more inclination towards cardiovascular disease than the normal weight metabolically healthy patients. This diagram shows you that there is a hockey stick, like inverted stick appearance because the BMI between 25 to 30 definitely needs some action, and once the BMI increases, the risk for the cardiovascular risk is increased. This brings us to the point where the gut-brain environment is an interlinked situation. The behavior, the autonomic endocrine influences on the external milieu affect the food eating and the energy expenditure. A lot of molecules have been discovered along the way. This is the slide which shows the influence of nutrients, the influence of hormonal action, and the influence of incretin. Incretin is the molecule which is the gut-brain barrier breaching the system. We can see the influence on the brain directly happening. And finally, you can see the weight gain is being also regulated by the mechanism of incretin. So another concept is that of healthy microbiota. So microbiota is another concept which has been addressed because even incretin concept depends on the way in which healthy microbiota are being generated because energy expenditure definitely needs a healthy microbiota. So coming to the topic proper, appetite modulation is depending on the molecules GLP-1 and GIP combination. We can see that food intake has been increased by only one molecule, which is ghrelin. The other things act on the mainly on the appetite regulation by the decreased food intake by the signaling pathway. How does the beta cell interact? So beta cell itself has got two locations for these two molecules. GLP-1 seeing on your left side is present omnipresently across the cells like islet cells, lung, kidney, heart, CNS, and GIT, whereas GIP receptor present on the adipose tissue, CNS, and islet cells. These are the two things which have been more relevant in the last 2 years. So why it is important is because postprandially you can see that the glucose excursions and the contribution towards insulin secretion is maximum with the relevant with the GIP molecule. We can see that 44% contribution is made by the GIP, and GLP molecule, though less, definitely has got an incremental action on the glucose synthesis. So Michael Nock, a main scientist, wrote this article on their role in health and disease, showing that progressive reduced expression of GIP receptor is another concept acting on the beta cell mass also. And further worsening of glycemic control and glucotoxicity results in new onset diabetes because of the interaction of incretin hormones. So researchers have gone through a lot of things. Last year in Diabetes Journal, we had a publication showing that incretin receptors antagonist also show that when you have antagonist acting, we can see that the diabetes values are actually increasing. So the Indian data, definitely Dr. Kalra, our Endocrine Society president, has come up with a document on consensus on South Asians task force, including scientists from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. We had influenced that islet cell-based fulcrum is the one which is relevant for the islet cell control. We can see that the stress, which is a major factor on the beta cell, causes the fatigue, and GLP-1 receptor agonist therapy here can reduce the fatigue. On the other side, we have the beta cell failure and the alpha cell overactivity. That has also been addressed by the GLP-1. So the fulcrum can change both sides, but beta cell is the one which is the most easily addressed. So this topic, when I was given, I was searching literature. So the publication which was highlighting is that the excitement with that, with the dual GIP, GLP-1 combined together. So this article published from the EASD minutes, we can see that phase 2B results are out. This shows that, publication shows that it's a new option in the therapeutic of diabesity. We all know that GLP-1 receptors act, and after food ingestion, they stimulate glucose-dependent insulin secretion and suppress the glucagon secretion. And finally, the brain is regulating the appetite, so the regulated appetite is there, and the slowing of the gastric emptying occurs. Among the options of GLP-1 receptors, there are many things available. They have got already established efficacy in reducing HbA1c. They have low or no hypoglycemia. The weight reduction is a very important facet which has been addressed. I told you that they have got pleiotropic action because they affect on the brain, heart, and the kidney. And we have a potential to improve the beta cell function by giving GLP-1 receptor analogs. Of course, the cost factor and the GI side effects are the ones which are getting addressed with time. So among the pharmacotherapy drugs, I will just show you a timeline. The many drugs have been discovered for obesity, right from the phentermine to the latest liraglutide. In between, we had a study which was published with lorcaserin. Now we have got a scare, and we are actually avoided because of the cancer risk associated. So there are many drugs which have got long-term significance because obesity can in itself cause the cancerogenic potential. So the study on liraglutide published in obese patients with pre-diabetes shows that, a scale study shows that after 56 weeks, that is 2 years of treatment, pre-diabetes is reversed. So weight change definitely influences the diabetes and controls the pre-diabetes. So among the GLP-1 receptor analogs, there are human-based analogs and exendin-4-based analogs. The molecular weight is different. They have got heterogeneous system, like twice daily being given exendin, then once daily being given, that is liraglutide and other drugs. Once weekly, that is liraglutide. Flexibility is there. Some are short-acting and some are long-acting. So main target also is different, that is prandial and fasting. So this molecular structure shows that the DPP-4 inhibition is always relevant, and residual action on the GIP is also there. Unique molecules have been mentioned in the orange color. Other things we can see in the different colors. So the dulaglutide, which is marketed by Lilly, it's a recombinant DNA-produced peptide on the non-amyloidated arm. It has got a tag with the FC, that is a immunoglobulin chain. The other molecule, which is semaglutide, it is also once weekly. It is using fatty acids engineered onto a peptide. Basically, it is a novel concept in drug protraction. So I would simplify this diagram. The short-acting analogs have been mentioned here, which is exenatide, twice daily, and lixisenatide, less than 12 hours of action. Intermediate acting are the liraglutide. Long acting, I had already mentioned the role of dulaglutide. Other drugs are semaglutide, long acting lixisenatide, as well as albiglutide. Now we are going to the stage of ultra long acting ones. Yes, the name has not been yet out. This is getting ITCA 650, 1 month or more. Why these drugs are important is because the CNS blood-brain barrier is caused by the the one having lesser molecular mass. We can see here that, yeah, the GLP-1s with larger molecular size do not cross the blood-brain barrier. Definitely the less effect on the weight. And we can see the consensus document I had shown you previously mentions that the role on weight is also important. The short-acting analogs act on the postprandial most, and the long-acting analogs act more on the fasting glucose. Basically, the injection burden is reduced by giving long-acting analogs. The gastric intolerance is also reduced with the long-acting analogs. These are the stages by which the trials have gone through. I am basically focusing on the double molecule, which is the dulaglutide and the semaglutide studies. The approval has been made from the last 2 years. So coming to this, the Lancet article shows that the benefit is doubled by giving GLP and GIP together. Definitely the challenge is there, how with every patient it happens or not. So this article shows you that the GLP-1 and GIP-1 separately are there, and once they act together, that is the co-agonist, they bind reciprocally and completely irreversibly. So this slide shows you the role of each different, that is glucagon, GLP and GIP. The action on the brain is definitely with the glucagon, and we can see that the food intake is also reduced. We can see that GLP-1 benefits the liver because fatty liver is reduced here. The heart, definitely the protection is there. Long-term survival is also improved. The pancreas, as I told you, beta cell mass is also improved. The bone also has been targeted. So they are very much diverse action molecule. So the potential therapeutic benefit of this molecule, several trials are going on. So the Lilly, Novo Nordisk, Sanofi, any company you know, they are going through all these research deliberations. I have shown this article showing that these are all in the phase 2 or in the phase 1 study. Only one has gone to the phase 3 study, which is this one. So the native molecule here, the Frias has described 47 sites across 4 countries, diabetic population, at least 6 months duration, and we have seen that follow-up was also there, randomly assigned to receive the molecule in different strength, 1 mg, 5 mg, 10 mg, and 15 mg. Their comparator arm was the dulaglutide. So the efficacy was measured by the HbA1c change from the baseline to 26 weeks. Secondary endpoints were the proportion of achieving HbA1c and the weight target. So there was no Asian population in this study, which is a drawback, but we can see that BMI and the diabetes is all matched for both the population. The age is also more than 50 years. So twincretin, which is GLP-1 GIP combination, produced superior efficacy on glycemic control compared to the GLP-1 receptor monotherapy. We can see the efficacy is maximum with the 15 mg arm. 10 mg arm also does a good job compared to that of the baseline, which is the dulaglutide molecule. Efficacy outcomes 26 weeks shows that it is actually compared across the arm. The 10 mg actually does better than the 15 mg in this because 15 mg the effect wanes off, and we can see that reversal of diabetes is possible with these molecules here. Of course, body weight is the one which is concerning the patient with obesity. The efficacy is there with 15 mg and 10 mg, and we can see 10 mg definitely again does a better action arm than the 15 mg molecule. So despite the good efficacy on the diabetes, there was no patient experienced severe hypoglycemia. This is the magic of this molecule. The similar effects of dulaglutide, mild to transient side effects are there. And definitely, as I had told you, 15 mg has got a increased treatment discontinuation. And we can see that 10 mg definitely is tolerating better than the 15 mg side. So this brings to that whether they're really twins or not. So GLP and GIP-1 are like step siblings because the molecule described initially was like twins, but now they are like different parents having different children and they are in the same family itself. So the trial which I had told you, which is a SURPASS-4, phase 3 trial, the molecular name, as I had told you the previous, now it has been coined as tirzepatide. It is a once-in-a-week molecule. Now they are going to the FDA norms of the trial recruiting arm. They are going to the deliberation. Next year they will do the results. And they have got active participant with glargine arm because glargine is the baseline. And they are going to measure the increased cardiovascular risk or not. Similarly, other companies like Novo Nordisk are going through the study just to show you that 12-week study is complete and they produce a similar HbA1c reduction than like the liraglutide molecule and significant body weight reduction than the liraglutide. And the glucagon molecule also has been done. The other studies are triple drug combination with GLP-1 and GIP. We can see that Sanofi is going through this deliberation. Other US-based companies are also coming up with the interesting researches. So triple drug molecule, they are recently done in healthy obese patients. Glucagon activity is actually better for obesity control, and the action of GLP and GIP-1 neutralize the hyperglycemic risk. So the conjugation is done by the IgG fraction. As you know, half-life is also improved to 47 hours. So the other thing is that GLP-1 tagged to the anti-PCSK receptor fusion. This is done by MedImmune company. This delays the development of diabetes and reduces obesity in rodent models. So my friends, we have got a lot of directions in the past. We are going to the future. Are these drugs the golden therapy against obesity? The question is really open for discussion, but we know that these drugs definitely produce effect on glycemic control, body weight, the steatohepatitis, as well as on the cholesterol pathway. So these are the drugs which are maybe the next future in the obesity management. So not only obesity, now we have known that these are also having neuroprotective effects. The studies on Parkinson's patients, and Alzheimer's patient and multiple sclerosis, they have all shown that neuroprotection action is there with GLP, GIP and glucagon molecules because of the peripheral CNS crosstalk. So the take-home messages from my session is that these drugs are effective for management of diabetes. They have got several advantages, but as you know, they have been cautiously given. Appropriate selection of patient is important. We know that Asian population has not been included in the study, so we don't know whether it's relevant for our population. This phenotype, Asian population has got a lean body weight and insulin sensitivity is better in them, so definitely the secretory effect is also there. Elderly population, which have got frailty and sarcopenia, definitely they will not have an effect which will be done with the other subset. But definitely these are drugs which have got a long cupboard. We may not know whether they are completely out. So the GIP-1 receptor definitely is the one which saves the molecule, but GLP-1 is not simultaneously acting. So they may be the future of drugs. Now oral GLP-1 drugs are also coming up, so they are also having longer acting potential. So the summary would be that if we could prevent obesity, type 2 diabetes could become a rare entity. And I urge you to go through the ADA guidelines previously published showing that there is a diabetes risk test which includes the age, the factors like gestational diabetes, many things which we don't usually pick up in a relevant practice. So it is basically a dream which takes us to the results. So the topic is twinkle, twinkle. So we tell that children to have dreams properly. So as our president previously had mentioned, never stop dreaming, because when we know that the child is actually growing through all these things, definitely dreams do really realize. Thank you for the kind listening.
Thank you, Dr. Shenoy, for a very excellent, lucid presentation. So we have time for
actually,
the questions.
I presented before time, so I have.
Yeah. So there is a lot of time for interactive session and questions from the audience.
When we speak about gliptins,
Yeah.
we only talk of GLP-1 because we say with GIP there's some resistance to its action.
Yeah.
Now with this twin cretin, what we're saying is you agonize or stimulate both GLP-1 and GIP. So that
It's actually co-agonist because the dose is important. The GLP action basically acts on the many oids, but GIP is only limited to the gut and the brain. So that's what neuron action is better. So they mentioned that I have no experience practically because this is all molecular aspect. But what I have been hearing from the publication is that the GIP action definitely controls the GLP over action because GIP will actually neutralize the GIP problems. So we know that glucagon also has been combined in some studies. The glucagon has hyperglycemic potential. So that has been countered by GLP and GIP-1 because they are saving the glucose has been reduced by that. But as you told us that the GLP and GIP-1 have got different area, but these are co-agonists. They actually agonize and target the receptors and positively regulate. So
no, but even when you inhibit DPP-4, then GLP-1 and GIP both are supposed to act.
Yes.
But of the two, only GLP-1 really does.
GLP is the main focus. GIP is only a side set.
There is resistance to its action.
Yes.
So especially when you're hyperglycemic, as
Correct.
you move towards euglycemia, perhaps the GIP
That's
also
what.
starts
That's what.
acting.
They basically counteract the side effect of the GLP because GLP has got gastric emptying and so side effects. So the vomiting, nausea vomiting is actually reduced by combining it with GLP-1, the GIP and GLP. That's the main thing. Glucose regulation definitely yet to be completely studied, but definitely the weight reduction is definitely improved with the molecule.
Thank you, sir, for a nice presentation. I was thinking about that index case, that businessman friend of mine.
Yeah.
Now, suppose he has come to your clinic, and what will be your prescription for this patient at this
basically
moment?
lifestyle modification. You got complete. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on a lifestyle modification, something more?
Yeah, lifestyle modification can be done at any stage of diabetes and even obesity. Lifestyle includes physical activity and healthy diet, healthy activity and stress reduction. Yeah.
Some more on healthy diets, because in that point, what my experience
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
we are overlooking and we have some clinical inertia, as you mentioned over there about initiating insulin and all those things. We have clinical inertia about the food management of the patient.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Normally, you do not take the proper history also. Now we are taking ADA guideline, this thing, this pre-gestational diabetes and all those things. I think that should be also taken care of.
Correct. Because the diet management is really important, because as told, even if you start the drugs, you don't stop telling them to proper diet. Because diet, macronutrients, balanced diet, even if you tell antioxidants in vitamins, the vegetables are the natural source of all these things. So this is the one which we have to tell in every time. Because even drugs, we don't allow them to do the action. We also have to proactively involve in the clinic-based thing. Good point.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to know that we are getting a molecule which acts both on the diabetes as well as the obesity, and it fearsome that India stands third in that. My question is on the weight reduction. So how much a patient lose weight by using this twin cretins?
Yeah, so
Maybe
the-
how many months it takes, and what is the time taken to reduce at least 10% of the weight?
Yeah, 5 to 10%, as I told you, reverses many situations. And there is no definitely time zone, because 6 weeks we see results in our practice. We have patients who improve by 2 weeks, but basically the motivation is important, because this is one thing which we don't estimate naturally, because the patient wants to lose weight actively, they have the best results. And the molecule itself, the dose, as I told you, 10 mg arm does better than 15 mg arm. This is the role by GLP and GIP co-acting. So maybe the side effect profile is also important. So when patient has a nausea, vomiting or some problem, they may be scared to take it further. So addressing, because you should take the proper time of the day. We usually tell them evening time, after the heavy meal, you should avoid those things. Definitely compliance depends on the way we educate the patient. Sir, any points? Anand Basu sir from the GLP-1.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
With the GLP, people tend to lose weight, but then they come down to a certain point and then they stop losing
Yes,
weight.
yes.
So they are set at that point only.
Yes,
Why
yes.
don't they go? Despite our continuation or increasing the dose
Yes.
of Victoza from 1.2 to 1.8, or say even 2.4 or 3, they don't tend to lose further
That's what.
weight.
Injection burden is one thing. As I told, twice daily we escalate. Now I think some having, even Novo Nordisk has also got the oral and the once weekly preparation.
Ribelsis.
Yeah,
Ribelsis is
yeah.
the-
So there will be more data on this. Basically, the jury is still not out with the answers. So what they are now telling is that we have a postprandial action and a fasting action, and definitely non-obesity, non-diabetic, we don't prescribe these drugs. So only when you have a glucose intolerance, these drugs are relevant for the patient. As sir told rightly, the injection burden can be minimized if you're giving a once weekly, but once weekly and compared with the other arm, that has not been really out with the perfect answer.
No, but they tend to lose weight,
Yeah,
but then
that's
don't-
what motivation factor, because we know we have some herb also available. So if patient gets misinformation, they accept it. When we inform properly, they really have skeptical. We know side effects are there for every drug, but if you still tell some small are there, then they are not accepting. They're transient effects. So basically, the answer would be to motivate them and action. And they have a waning off. Definitely, there is a timeline. We have to stop the drugs after some time. We cannot give them for lifetime. So when you have a obesity and diabetic patient, both things have to be addressed. These drugs act on diabetes and obesity when we are properly giving a motivation.
about 20-30% of
Yeah.
the patients don't lose weight.
Yeah, 6
despite-
months will be the ceiling point.
Really, there
1
are-
year, I don't see that much. Yeah.
About 20-30% patients don't lose weight at all, despite
Yeah. Because that
liraglutide.
depend on many pharmacokinetics and action. So basically, it's not really true. But our population, as I told you, Asian phenotype is definitely insulin sensitive patients. So basically, motivating them to physical activity definitely does a better job.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
A lot of young obesity diabetic patients are having fatty liver
Yeah.
or NASH. So this twin creatine, any promise in that?
No, that's what. There are studies which are going to come. Incretin, definitely, GLP, GIP-1, they are not completely telling this. But we know the GLP-1, like Flint study by liraglutide, showed a good result with diabetes, NASH prevention and reversal. I think they are going to the next phase also. Now they are targeting on diabetes, obesity. The next phase and other drugs will target the NAFLD and the steatohepatitis.
So if there are any, no more questions, we can
Thank you.
conclude the session. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Shenoy.